about the cooperative pipeline, about how, we've got people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s saying, well, we haven't got enough co-op lawyers, we haven't got enough co-op accountants. We need to educate these people that there's an option. But I think one of the things that came out was if younger children know that there is a co-op option, then that pipeline starts earlier. So then in another 30, 40, 50 years, we won't be having these same conversations because it will be another way of doing a business, not just an option or something to learn as an adult student, if that makes sense.
It does. And then the question arises around how you actually impact in Wales on the new national curriculum, which has changed from the Napoleonic down sort of thrust around what government requires to an approach which we call Cynefin, which is driven from the base, from the community upwards in which the school is actually located. As a downside to that, if teachers don't actually understand or live in the area in which their school is located. And there's a lot of flexibility for this to happen if schools are so minded, and it will depend, I think, ultimately on the head teacher and the senior management team of the school.
But having said that, is just some great examples from around the world of actually political will and political levers being pushed to make some of this happen. There's an incredible example in the Philippines where I don't know if it's a government initiative or is it directly from the co-op movement, but basically every school is now mandated to set up a children's cooperative, and they're called co-op laboratories. And each of these laboratories is sponsored by a cooperative guardian, which is one of a local cooperative in the area. So although they're youth cooperatives, they don't have the same democratic voting rights. It introduces children to this idea of democratic participation, and then many of them go on then to choose to set up their own co-ops once they reach the age of majority, which I think is 16, when they can start setting up their own organisations. But it's fantastic that actually that there can be political will in there too.
Hi, Adrian.
No, can I suggest that there's also another route, which is not, as far as I can see, has not been discussed at all, which is we've got over 100 business schools in the UK. I don't think any of them now run anything on cooperatives. I mean, I worked in Manchester Business School for a decade. In Manchester, you'd think they might be doing something around cooperatives, 250 academics. I don't think I ever had a single conversation about cooperatives, and we certainly didn't run any courses. And all the textbooks are devoid of cooperatives almost completely. Everything on organisation and management, there's barely a mention in any of them. And I think that's an obvious route that the cooperative movement ought to be getting into.
I couldn't agree more, Colin. I was up in Congress as well, and the thing that I noted was the 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 economic impact bit of co-ops and the business bit of co-ops, and why aren't we? One of my questions was, do we need to stop apologizing for profit? And I was catching up with Pauline Green actually, and I said, oh, but it's surplus. I said, Pauline, it's not. I said, profit is power. I said, and we earn profit and we invest profit for new opportunities, for new jobs, for new good. And I think that's part of we haven't got that way. A co-op is a good business and it can create economic value because you can do all the other brilliant stuff, but we need, common ownership in terms of where equity growth can be used to look for new markets, for new products, new services, to create new jobs when these jobs go. And we're not in that frame of the economic impact cooperation can make. And I think it's probably it works both ways, doesn't it? 'Cause if we're not having that conversation into business schools, they're not coming back out of it as well. So
No.
definitely agree.
As long as as long as we recall that profit in co-op terms is surplus.
Well, this is why I've had enough of that, to be honest.
That's why I
At the end of the
mentioned it.
day, profit is power, and if you have
Yeah,
profit, you
yeah,
can
but
make
it's how you
decisions with it.
differentiate the product as well, isn't
But
it?
what that leads me to is that education is gigantic. To take Colin's point, education is gigantic, and then how much do you get? That's gigantic, and something else is semantic. To what extent do we get ourselves caught on hooks of definitions? And I'm going to be asking that question if I get an opportunity. If I don't get an opportunity, fine, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm holding that little question back about to what extent are definitions here really a bit, who cares? but so I'm warning you, folks.
No,
So,
it's super interesting. So, Glenn, you were at Congress, so you might have seen my colleague Anka on stage on the last day, and she was very much talking about how, co-ops in Eastern Europe, you can't use the word cooperative because it's
oh,
associated with forced collectivization.
oh,
So when people try and work together, you have to call it working together, not cooperatives, because co-ops you will just get shown the door. So
Mad.
it's super interesting.
But then we've got a similar thing, and I've raised the Law Commission. With the type of stuff we want to do in care, technically we're setting up as community benefit societies. We can't call them co-ops, So we've got the same sort of challenges that we need that social cooperative model, which is the BENCOM model that is more mutual, but still has the same equal status as a charity in terms of tax advantage and rate relief, etc. So yeah, we've got some of the same challenges, but just come from a different angle, I suppose.
I think it's probably worth saying that in the business schools, might expect that all they do is talk about private sector business, but that's actually not true. Particularly in the post 1990 business schools, in the post 1990 universities, a lot of them have very strong links with the public sector. I mean, some of the MBA, Masters in Business Administration programs in some of the new universities, well, they're not new anymore, but you know what I mean, were probably about 50% public sector managers. And some of them also have quite a strong not-for-profit charity research base and some teaching on, but virtually nothing on cooperatives, apart from the OU that used to do a little bit, but they've all retired. There's just nothing in any of the business schools, and I think that's and you can change it. I mean, prior to 1990, we had 3 business schools in the UK. We've now got over 100. And they've changed and evolved quite a lot. And I think the cooperative movement could have a big input there if it chose to, both on research and teaching.